What had happened was I had enrolled in the San Francisco State University film program, and I had completed a film, and I was on the International Film Festival circuit, traveling and touring around with my film. And at each film festival, regardless of whether it was Asian American Film Festival or LGBTQ Film Festival or Arts Film Festival, I found just one handful of queer women of color filmmakers. And that was when I thought to myself, if we're not the filmmakers making films of our own lives and experiences, who will? Are we going to wait until Hollywood gets it right one day? And so that was the genesis for starting up QWOCMAP. When I first started QWOCMAP, it was a series of workshops, and our annual budget was about $15,000. And we have grown that budget now to over $200,000. We are a very scrappy, do-it-yourself, queer women of color rolling out our sleeves and making things happen. Most of our funding comes from foundation sources, which unfortunately there's been a major decline in foundation funding, so that has definitely affected the organization. In terms of our work, I think that I was not sure what to expect when I first offered the first series of workshops that first year. I knew that I saw a need and knew that this was needed, but I didn't know how the community would respond when I first put out the workshops. And what happened was I got a waiting list right away, a waiting list that was 2 years long. And that really blew me away because, obviously it was a community response to this idea, which I didn't even know would be successful or not. And since then it's grown, and people have moved here to the Bay Area from Boston, from the Midwest. They move here, they sign up for the workshops for 4 months, and after the workshop's done, they move back home. We have received requests for our workshops from Canada, from Mexico, from Morocco, from Egypt, from New Zealand, from South Africa, from Nigeria. So, there's obviously a need for skills, especially for queer women of color. And if you're queer and you're from some other part of the world, there's even fewer resources. So there's definitely a need for these types of skills so that we can actually learn how we can tell our own stories. I think that the draw of this particular workshop, the QWOCMAP workshop, is twofold. One, it's free. So it's a free 4-month-long workshop, which I also teach at the University of San Francisco, and my students there pay about $5,000 for the same workshop. And so it's offered free to the queer women of color, genderqueer, transgender of color community. The other thing is that we work very hard to create a safe and supportive environment. And part of that comes from when I was taking film classes, and no one got my films. When I was, I signed up at City College, and as I mentioned, I went to the San Francisco State Film Program, and very few people got my films. And after I would screen my film, I would get a polite round of applause, but no one really got it. And so the idea here was to really create an environment that was safe and supportive, that the participants and the filmmakers did not have to explain where they were coming from, and that everyone was starting from the same place, and we could just grow from that. Actually, Margot, one of our QWOCMAP filmmakers, and she's also on our QWOCMAP board, she said, Madeleine will squeeze a film out of a rock. And really what it is when I designed the curriculum, it was designed in such a way that it would take a someone who's completely new to filmmaking and take them through the steps from a hands-on process, from conceptualizing their idea to completing the film and then getting it out into the world. And majority of our participants are all brand new to film. They've never touched a camera before, never operated a camera before, never made a film before. And so to see them through this process was to see them go through this amazing transformative process where they really learned about themselves, where they learned how to use equipment that was, in terms of technology, that was demystified for them. in terms of using the camera, in terms of using the computer and the software, editing software. And they really learned to be disciplined in terms of going through the different phases of making a film and actually completing the film. So it was definitely a learning curve, lots to learn, and an empowering and transformative process for them. So in terms of the filmmakers, what has happened is that after they take the introductory workshop, when we do offer the intermediate workshop, they also sign up and take that workshop, and then they go on to create more films. So a number of our filmmakers have gone on to grad school in filmmaking. They move away, go to grad school, they come back, they join QWOCMAP. One of our QWOCMAP filmmakers, Carol, she went away to Boston to grad school at Emerson, came back here, was our teaching assistant, and was a part of our staff before finally moving to LA, where she's producing a feature-length film now. We have had other filmmakers who have moved down to Los Angeles, you know, where the filmmaking industry is. Some of them work at NBC, some of them work as cinematographers down in LA. One of our participants is at USC in the filmmaking department, in the filmmaking school, where she's completing her master's in fine arts. So, you know, and filmmakers have gone on to make feature-length documentaries. One of our participants actually had the world premiere of her feature-length documentary at the Berlin Film Festival, where it won a Teddy Award. And several other short films have won jury awards and audience awards all around the world. So the very first year, when we decided to do a screening, was actually in 2003. And there had been requests to say, folks have said to me, oh, we want to see a screening of the films that have been completed. And for the first 3 years, I said, well, we're not ready yet. And so finally in 2003, I said, yes, we're ready. So we put on the Queer Women of Color Film Night. And I wasn't sure, again, you know, whether people would come and what the turnout would be. It turns out that there was a line all the way out the door, down the stairs, and out the building. And this was held at the San Francisco LGBT Community Center at the Rainbow Room. And so I think capacity in that room, legal capacity, was maybe 190 people, and we maybe squeezed double that in the room. And everyone was shoved up against each other, you know, 3 rows deep, elbows in their cheeks and everything. People couldn't see the subtitles, but everyone was in there really hungry to see images that reflected them and their lives. And then in 2005, because of the response that we were getting, I thought to myself, okay, you know, let's try and do 2 screenings instead of 1 screening and see if that would help ease the, you know, ease the number of people that were coming. Oh no, like double the people came because there were 2 screenings now. And so that was the year when we changed it from a film night to the Queer Women of Color Film Festival. A year after that, we moved our film festival to the Brava Theater. And I thought, great, we have double the seats that we had the previous year. No problem. I told everyone, just come on over. People came over, and the opening night, the first year we got to Brava, we turned away over 100 people. The first year we got there, and I'm like, oh my God, we just got here. And it's great. It's a great problem to have, but you know, we just got here. So anyways, I mean, so the audience reception has been really great. The community, obviously, you know, at that time really was hungry to see images of ourselves. So what I'm really excited about is our QWOCMAP Film and Freedom Academy. And what that is I've taken our 4-month-long workshop and condensed it into an intensive 4-day boot camp. And last year we got a small grant to take this on the road, and the idea was to be able to design a curriculum that we can actually travel with, that the instructors can actually travel with. So we took this training to areas in the United States that do not have as many resources and access to resources, especially for the queer people of color community. So we took that to Austin, Texas, we took that to Little Rock, Arkansas, to Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, and we also took that to Gallup, New Mexico, which is a half hour away from the Navajo state capital. And so we conducted 4-day workshops for queer women of color, and out of 16 days, we walked away with 17 films. So I'm extremely excited about our Film and Freedom Academy because that really allows us to take the workshop on tour, and my hope and dream is to actually take it internationally and actually take it to queer people of color who live in other countries, who don't have the access to resources the same way we do here in the Bay Area. So I was one of the instructors, one of the 2 instructors who were teaching the Film and Freedom, our Film and Freedom Academy. And I had a blast. I had such a great time. It was sort of like we, parachuted in, taught this 4-day intensive boot camp, and then we parachuted out. You can't really parachute out, but anyways, we jetted out. But it was lots of fun, and the participants were really excited, really grateful and appreciative because, once again, all they had to do was to commit to completing a film. I mean, in 4 days, they knew that they would complete a film and that this film would screen at a film festival. I mean, and not just any film festival, it's the Queer Women of Color Film Festival. So, they were down. They showed up, they did the work, they, stayed for 12, 16 hours all night long editing the film because they knew that, by the end of that time, they would have a tangible product in their hands that was going to get out into the world. One of the films dealt with the passing of a partner. So it was in memory of her late partner. There were a number of films that surprised me that dealt with land and belonging and the connection to the land. There were a couple of films when we conducted the workshop in Gallup. All of the women were all Navajo Two-Spirit queer women who took part in the workshop. And so we have some really great films that highlight the Navajo experience. Two-Spirit is a pan-Native American term that is used to describe LGBTQ people. Sometimes it is taken to mean Two-Spirit in terms of male and female gender, and sometimes it is also taken to mean Two-Spirit in terms of sexuality, in terms of being queer and LGBTQ. I think I'm constantly amazed at the commitment that our participants come with, their enthusiasm, their excitement, and their energy, and their stories. I think that one of the things that our community has is we have amazing, powerful, moving stories. And what I try to do is provide a really high level of production quality so that those stories can be seen in their best light without being distracted by bad sound, without being distracted by bad lighting. I think what happens is because a lot of our queer communities don't, particularly queer people of color communities, don't have access to, expensive film schools or expensive equipment. And, speaking for myself, it wasn't until I turned 30 that I decided, look, I really need to be serious about filmmaking because there were no role models. I didn't know anyone who made a livelihood as a filmmaker. And so we don't have access to those skills. And filmmaking is such an expensive medium. It's the most expensive medium, and it is the most visible medium out there. And so we have really, really great stories that translate really well to this medium. And so it's really about empowering, our queer people of color community with skills and nurturing them as artists and filmmakers. So our film festival this year actually presents an unprecedented 57 films, out of which 53 of them are world premieres. And our festival focus is Swana Amemsa, which stands for Southwest Asian North African, Arab Middle Eastern Muslim South Asian Queer Community. Featured screening is on Saturday night, which features all of these films from a Muslim DJ who has to wait until it's after midnight so that she can actually go to work because, as a DJ, she works on Saturday night, but Saturday is the rest day, so she has to wait until past midnight so that then she can actually start working. We have films about the Syrian Revolution. We have films about this young woman who's still a teenager struggling with her ethnic identity as well as her queer identity. And so these multitude and diversity of voices of the Swana Memsa community. I'm working on a documentary called The Worlds of Bernice Bing, and that is also going to world premiere at our film festival. It's about 35 minutes long, about the life and legacy of Bernice Bing, who was a Chinese-American abstract expressionist painter, and she was also a community organizer and a lesbian. And she passed away in '98, and she's not very well known in the art community, and the idea is to highlight her achievements and to really amplify her visibility. QWOCMAP Productions has been creating our series of family films, and it's about queer women of color raising children. And this year we are completing number 3. So the first one is called The Gift of Family, and it was about queer Black women raising children. And the second one was called Family Blessings, and it was about queer Asian Pacific Islander women raising children. And the third one, which is screening this year, is called Corazón de Familia, which is about queer Latinas raising children. And so I'm really excited about the series of documentaries being produced by QWOCMAP Productions, created, shot, envisioned by QWOCMAP Productions. And yeah, I'm really excited about the screening.